Tom, thank you. Another top 25 team right here on CBS Sports Network. It's 6th-ranked Xavier visiting St. John's, just underway here from Queens as Quentin Gooden misfires from deep. Alongside Steve Lapis and Tina Servasio, I'm Andrew Catalan as Xavier looks for its 20th win of the season. Quentin Gooden has the three-pointer for the Musketeers. For St. John's, it was a three by Marvin Clark. And now 5 points for Shamori Pons after that triple right there.
And he's a 20% three-point shooter. His game is taking the ball to the basket. If he could ever make those consistently, he'd be a lot better. This guy here, inside the lane, the last game at the Cintas Center, Andrew, he dominated the paint in that game.
Karim Kanter with the bucket. He had 22 and 13 when these two teams met 13 days ago in Cincinnati. St. John's had the lead in the second half of that game. They put up a great fight, but Xavier went on a big run to pull out a 6-point win as Bashir Ahmed gets it done on the baseline.
You know, St. John's is not a good three-point shooting team. They can drive it, and if Xavier's not going to keep them in front, they're in for a long night.
JP Makura catch and shoot. His three won't go, and the rebound comes down to St. John's. That's a huge key tonight, rebounds. In the first meeting, Xavier out-rebounded St. John's by 18. Ahmed misses from deep.
Xavier out-rebounds their opponents by 10 rebounds a game. St. John's in the Big East gets out-rebounded by 10 a game. I don't think I've ever seen a number that big.
Blew it, nearly turns it over, gets it back, misses in tight, and there's Justin Simon to take it away. Good energy early on from this St. John's team. Ahmed in the paint. And the left hand no good, gets his own rebound. Tries to go back up with it, and he travels. Here's a look at the standings in the Big East. Xavier, number 6 in the country, a half game out of first place. And St. John's still looking for its first conference win of the year. But what appears to be a mismatch 13 days ago, you would have never known by the way St. John's played at Xavier.
Let's face it, St. John's hasn't won a conference game, Andrew, but they've been in, except for that Butler game, they've been in just about every game.
And JP Makura drawing some boos as him and Shamori Pons having an exchange down low. The officials tonight, Pat Driscoll, Wally Uteki, and Tony Chiazza.
Little something going on there. But you know, Andrew, so far in this game early on, Xavier not doing a good job of playing St. John's off the dribble. It'll be a long night if they don't stop them off the bounce.
Foul was called on Bashir Ahmed. Here's Kanter left open for three, and he drills it. His 12th three-pointer of the season.
This guy has every kind of skill. I don't know if he could jump over a phone book, but I'll tell you one thing. Seriously, this guy can do a lot in terms of putting the ball in the basket.
Owen saves it. Clark recovers at midcourt. St. John's leads by 2. Clark puts it up and hits.
They are spreading it out, and they are just driving it every single time. You can see very clearly what their game plan is offensively.
Makura three is way short. And an air ball in transition. Ahmed all the way for 2.
I think Chris Mack could use a timeout.
We are in a media break zone, so it appears Mack will wait for that. But what a start for the Red Storm.
And I don't like a lot of the shot selection, really, for Xavier so far.
Najee Marshall carries the ball. A turnover for Xavier, and what a great beginning to this game for the Red Storm.
Well, they're driving it like crazy, and Bashir Ahmed getting out in transition here with the nice finish.
For those of you watching on CBSSports.com, our streaming coverage will conclude after the commercial, but will continue on CBS Sports Network. Back in Queens, you're watching college basketball on CBS Sports Network, presented by Stouffer's Fit Kitchen Bowls. Good start for St. John's. They lead it 14-8 as we check in on our principal financial game plan. What do you got, Coach?
Well, Xavier goes 9 deep, so they want to play a fast game. St. John's plays 5 guys 30-plus minutes. You got to contain Pons. In the first game, Pons was 6 for 20. You're not going to stop him, even though Butler found the way to stop without a field goal. You just want to make him shoot a bad percentage. St. John's rebound the rock. These guys are getting out rebounded by 10 a game, and they must defend the paint where they got destroyed the first time around.
And early on, as you see Chris Mack and Chris Mullen, the 2 head coaches tonight, how about this in the rebounding department? St. John's with a 6-1 advantage on the glass.
That is absolutely huge after what happened to them in that first game.
Pons fakes the 3. Shooting just 20% from deep from beyond the arc, but did hit earlier here in the first half.
A little more energy defensively by Xavier right now.
Here's Owens for 3.
You've got to make St. John's shoot threes and don't let them drive it. That was good defense.
Marshall corner 3 is good for Xavier. Najee Marshall, the freshman, with just his 9th 3 of the year.
You know, guys that don't make threes for them, Gooden, Marshall, starting to make threes. Scruggs, who comes off the bench, all these guys are starting to make threes. They hadn't made them all year.
Xavier had 14 threes in the first meeting against St. John's. That's a season high. Another offensive rebound for the Red Storm. Clark launches from deep, and that's way off the mark.
See, that's 2 threes in a row they forced St. John's to take. When they were getting to the basket early in the game, St. John's was good.
Canner down low, blocked by Owens. Tariq Owens, 6th in the country in blocks per game, and he's got 1 here already tonight. Ahmed out of control, and they're going to say a tie-up. The possession arrow favors St. John's.
Well, you're going to see Najee Marshall here. He's open for a reason. He's not a good three-point shooter. St. John's doesn't locate well in the semi-transition situation, and he gets an open 3. And Tariq Owens, one of the leading shot blockers in the country. St. John's, 11th as a team in the country, block a lot of shots.
Owens averaging 3.5 blocks per game. Pons gets to the hoop but can't finish, and now here comes Trayvon Blewett, who has exactly 2,000 points in his career. He could set a milestone tonight. He needs only 6 points to move into 3rd all-time on Xavier's career scoring list. Ahmed again driving, and he cannot get it to go. Down low, it's Sean O'Mara, and a foul is called on the floor against St. John's. Gives us a chance to take a look at our enterprise picks to watch, and Trayvon Blewett shooting 43% from deep.
Almost 3 a game in the Big East. This guy has become a better and better shooter every year. Chris Mack's players get better and better every year.
Foul was on Tariq Owens of St. John's. And a turnover by Xavier. That's their 2nd. St. John's started 6 of 8 shooting, but since then they've missed 5 consecutive shots. That streak's over as Pons dials it up from deep.
Wow.
And then a foul is called coming down the floor. 2nd 3 tonight for Shamori Pons.
Obviously, they're not respecting his three-point shot to go under that screen. That was not good defense. Maybe Chris Mack told him go under it because he's not a good shooter, but he's making him pay now. 2 in this building. And you know one thing, Andrew? Playing in this building, a little different than playing in the Garden.
Yeah, and Coach, that foul coming up the floor was on Bashir Ahmed. That's his 2nd, and that is one thing that St. John's cannot afford to do. Foul trouble. They only go 8 deep. You mentioned before they average the fewest amount of bench points in the country. Now they have to take Ahmed out with 2 fouls.
And here's the one thing that I say. I mean, Chris Mullen is doing the best he can with what he has. That's a really good shot.
3 for Blewett.
He's got a quick trigger, but they don't play zone. And I'm a little surprised that even that possession, you got a guy with 2 fouls. He's out of the game. You got to go to your bench, Trimble already. And you're still playing man-to-man. I think they need to mix it up and play a little bit of zone.
Amar Alibegovic and Brian Trimble into the game as Tariq Owens has joined Ahmed on the St. John's bench. A 3-point Red Storm lead. Pons lost it, turns it over. The freshman Paul Scruggs brings it up the floor. As Chris Mack told us before the game, he's been very pleased with the way Scruggs has come on. He had 10 points in their last game against Marquette. Here's Scruggs for 3. Looking good again as he ties the game at 17.
You know, as it is, you got to worry about Blewett. You got to worry about Kaiser Gates. You got to worry about Makura. If you have to start worrying about Gooden, Scruggs right now, that makes them even more dangerous.
Number 3 in the RPI, number 6 in the country. Xavier looking to lock up its 20th win of the year tonight. Alibegovic short on the 3. And right now, since that media timeout, things have tilted back in Xavier's control. O'Mara spinning down low and hitting, and Xavier has the lead. It's an 8-0 run.
I mean, that was just using his size. I mean, this Xavier team is much bigger. They're one of the bigger teams in the country, actually, Xavier. Overall length.
And what they've done is quieted this building, which was jumping early on. A foul on Quentin Gooden. And it takes us to a timeout.
Xavier's really starting to pick it up defensively with the good help there by O'Mara, which causes the strip on Pons, and then they come down the other end. Hand down, I'm knocking the 3 out right there. Xavier up 2.
Back at Carnesecca Arena, Xavier has a 2-point lead, and for the first time tonight, let's say hello to Tina Servasio.
Well, Andrew, as we watch St. John's Shamorie Pons tonight and the way he's been scoring, it's hard to believe he's coming off the worst game of his college career. He was 0 for 12 in that blowout loss versus Butler. Now, he was coming off a quad injury into that game. However, Pons has taken on a lot of extra minutes since Marcus Levette went down for the season. Chris Mullen tells me with no Levette, they need Pons to make plays, to score, to assist, to rebound. A lot has been put on him, but he's handled it with grace and dignity. And coming into the game tonight, his legs are a lot better, Andrew.
No question, Tina. Last 2 games combined, he scored 9 points. Already in the first 9 minutes tonight, he's got 8 points. So that's a great sign for a St. John's team that desperately needs him to perform and play well.
Yeah, when you have that little depth, you need all your guys, especially your main guys, to step up every single night.
Owens' jumper is off the mark. He's back into the game as Alibegovic returns to the bench for St. John's.
You know, one thing we got to put in perspective, Andrew, is the last game, Xavier lit it up against St. John's from the 3-point line. They're 5 for 10 now. And this St. John's team in the Big East, 45% they're giving up from the 3-point line. That's almost unheard of. They are not defending the 3 well at all.
A travel on Tyreek Jones, turnover number 3 for Xavier. We met with Chris Mack before the game, and he said the one thing they really need to focus on tonight, cut down on the turnovers. They had 15 of them in the win over St. John's a couple of weeks ago. You see the 3 tonight, and St. John's does such a great job of creating turnovers. They force over 17 per game, which is 9th best in the country. Clark driving baseline. Good defense by Jones. Now Xavier running the break with Gooden. Gooden driving inside. Hands off Jones. Good defense by the Red Storm. Out to Gates, who misses the 3. Makura pokes it away.
As good as Simon was in that first game, he's not doing anything here.
Makura, other end, and Owens says hello underneath the basket. Second block for Tariq Owens. Pons, step back 3, and that's no good.
That's a tough shot. I'm not crazy about that one.
Pons coming into the game as Jones is fouled down low. Let's go back to Owens, though. He's got one block or more in every game this year.
Well, you see Mercurius, who tries to go to his body, but he's so long that he's able to stay off Mercurius' body and still block that shot.
However, Owens picks up his second foul, and he's back on the bench. As you take a look at the blocks per game leaders in the country this year, Tariq Owens, number 6 on the list. Had a career-high 8 blocks against Georgetown.
And now they have Ahmed in with 2 fouls. There's his third.
Wow.
Now, I mean, they almost have to play zone.
Ahmed's going to come right back out. And Trimble will return. But Bashir Ahmed, with 9:31 to go in the first half, has 3 fouls.
You got to stay on the ground. This is a bad closeout right there. I mean, there's no reason to jump. You're not going to block a jump shot. You just want to close out, get a hand up, and contain the ball. If he shoots a 3 with your hand in his face, he shoots it. You don't want him driving, and you certainly don't want to leave your feet and get a foul.
And we met with Chris Moen before the game, as now the officials want to go to the monitor, and he had a pretty funny line about how, you know, guys are getting tired, playing a lot of minutes. He said the guys that transferred here, they weren't playing enough, so that's why they left their school. Now they come here and they're playing too much.
That was pretty funny. It was.
They're checking to see if Mercurius is fouled behind the line.
Well, that's close.
Very close. Now they're going to say it was on the floor, not a shooting foul, so Xavier will inbound with a 2-point advantage. Musketeers have won 4 games in a row, and during that win streak, they're averaging 85 points per game and shooting 50% from the floor. And what Chris Mack also told us was that the defensive intensity has picked up over this 4-game win streak as well. There are 2 Big East losses at Providence and at Villanova. Blewett puts up a shot. It's way short. Marshall catches it, and a foul underneath. You know, now the foul's adding up for the Red Storm.
If you're looking for an identity, Xavier's identity is on the offensive end. That's where all their big numbers are. But they're a competent defensive team, no doubt about it, that needs to continue to get better.
6 team fouls on St. John's, so Xavier will shoot the rest of the way. And Marshall at the line right now for 2. Weekdays at noon Eastern, Jim Rome welcomes you to the jungle for 3 hours of hot takes, high-impact interviews, and a steady dose of the clones. The Jim Rome Show on CBS Sports Network. Marshall makes a pair. It's a 4-point Musketeer advantage. Jamori Pons leads the Big East in minutes played, almost 36 per night.
And Justin Simon is second, I think.
He is. 35.4. Trimble, he can shoot it from deep, but that one won't go. Good in attacking and scoring.
He just went through everybody. Too strong. He's a strong kid.
12 straight points for Xavier. St. John's with that red-hot start. They've gone ice cold on offense. 8.5 to go in the first. That 3, no good. Another missed shot from deep, this time from Simon. And the rebound is Xavier as Marshall pushes up ahead, trying to go end-to-end, loses it out of bounds to St. John's.
Well, let's take a look at this move here by Gooden. The help by Alibegovic is not good enough. He's the guy that's got to step in. Stop it right there, right there. He's got to stop that. Instead, he just sticks his arm. He's got to move his feet and get in front in that situation, and that's why Gooden's able to finish. Strong move.
On the offensive end, St. John's has missed 11 of its last 12 shots.
I think a lot has to do with the way Xavier came out after that first media timeout.
Pons connects from deep. And Jamori Pons already has 3 threes here in the first half.
You know, that's a shot that if you're Chris Mack, you say, hey, that's a hard 3, contested. That was good defense. He made a heck of a shot.
Backhander right at Ali Begovic. Good help defense from Simon. Forces the turnover. Pons bounces it to Clark. He couldn't get a handle on it. The Pons three ended a 12-0 run by Xavier. Good pass. Wide open. Missed it.
Not going to get a better shot than that.
Mikura is now 0 for 4.
And he's been their best player on the road, averaging over 15 a game. He had 27 at Seton Hall.
Pons, that one was really from long range. Mikura trying to get in a rhythm, and he finds it. 6-point Xavier lead as JP Mikura is on the board.
I got him going to talk about his road game.
He did have 27 in the win at Seton Hall. Big comeback in that game for the Musketeers, down by 10 in the second half. Came back to beat the Pirates. Clark is fouled. 6:46 to go, first half. And it's a three-point party early on.
Well, Shamari Pons with a step-back three for the 20% three-point shooter. And then Mikura, he missed one before bad, but he knocks this out. They're up 6.
It's a 6-point Xavier lead here in the first half. Of 15-3 run for the Musketeers. They've hit 6 3-pointers. Courtside with Steve Lapis, I'm Andrew Catalan, and this seems to be the story for St. John's. They give you a lot of effort. They play very good defense. They just can't score.
Yeah, you know, they're going to struggle to score. They don't really have much inside, that's for sure. And if Pons, who's playing well, but if Justin Simon tonight not playing well, that's what's hurting them. But they have not defended the three-point shot against Xavier in either game. Xavier only averages 7.5 threes a game. The first game, they made 14. I almost remember sitting there at the same place, Andrew, saying, I can't believe they have 6 threes already. They only average 7.5. Same thing tonight. Not defending the three-point line right now, St. John's.
Season high 14 threes in the game Steve was just talking about, a game you saw here on CBS Sports Network, which was the 203rd win for Chris Mack. It made him the all-time wins leader in Xavier school history as he passed our colleague and friend Pete Gillen.
You know, I'm going to put it in perspective. They're allowing people in the Big East, St. John's, to shoot 45% from the three-point line. The worst three-point defense in the country for all games is 41%. They give up 45 in league games. That is an extraordinarily high number.
How much of that do you think is just fatigue at the end of games? That their starters play so many minutes that it's hard to play on both ends of the floor?
I think it's definitely got something to do with it, no doubt. And they're not the biggest perimeter. Shamari Pons is not a big guy, so contesting shots is not that well. And they have some guys that they got to bring in the game that aren't that athletic.
Here's Blewett, and he hits. He's got 5 points, so he needs one more to move into third all-time in Xavier school history.
And he does a little bit of everything. That was a great curl, a good read off the screen in terms of what he was going to do, the way his man was playing him.
Six minutes to go, first half. 7 on the shot clock. Pons guarded by Mikura. Out to Clark, who launches for 3 and hits. Marvin Clark came into the game with the most threes for St. John's, 39 of them, and he cuts the deficit down to 3. Well, Mikura is fouled hard, and that will send him to the line for a 1-and-1.
So you take a look here, freeze it right here. These guys should switch this because they're like players. They're both perimeter players. Instead, 2 guys guard 1, and they forget about Marvin Clark and leave the best three-point shooter alone. You got to talk that out, and they didn't.
Here's Mikura, tied for 10th in the Big East, shooting 83% at the line, and he makes the first free throw. Xavier 4-2 in road games this year. The highlight we mentioned, down 10 second half at Seton Hall, came back to win as Makura makes them both, and then points to the St. John students. He is not shy about mixing it up with fans on the road.
Maybe that gets him going. That's why he plays so well on the road. But he's definitely one of those kids that the opposing fans don't like.
Yeah, no, he's on that list. Here's Gates for three. Makura goes hard to the ground. Now St. John's pushes it up ahead with Simon. Very quiet early in this one, Justin Simon. Clark another three. Not this time. Ali Begovic knocks it out of bounds to Xavier.
You know, one of the signs of a good team, Andrew, is you don't let what happened the first time happen the second time. So I'm sure Chris Mack talked a lot about Justin Simon and what he did in that first game. And tonight it shows the defensive recognition of where he is.
What he did in that first game was score a career-high 28. He had 2 threes so far tonight. Simon is scoreless. And a foul inside on Ali Begovic. Second foul on Ali Begovic. And another 1-and-1 for the Musketeers.
You know, I'm going to surprise you with something, Andrew. Would you guess that I was the type of coach that the fans didn't like when I went on the road? Would you guess that?
As being one of those opposing fans at Syracuse, I can confirm that's true.
I forgot about that.
You had a few fun trips up there.
Oh, yeah. You know, we went up there a few times.
No question. Maybe that's why we didn't like you.
Had something to do with it.
Yeah. Canner misses the front end. 76% free throw shooter. How about Pons getting to the hoop and the foul. Explosive move from Shamori Pons.
There's a classic example. If you're not in your stance, this guy will blow by you. This was a little bit of a stand up there by Scruggs. He wasn't down low, ready to accept the drive. And the worst thing you could do is have those knees extended and not bent. And that's why he got beat that time by an explosive kid.
Pons had 37 in the loss against Villanova. And here in the first half, he already has 14 with 4:41 to go.
Well, they didn't see the real Shamori Pons at Xavier that night, but they're seeing him now.
He was 6 of 20 in the first meeting between these two schools. Foul trouble for St. John's, 3 for Ahmed, 2 on Owens and Ali Begovic. And another foul on St. John's. This one's on Ali Begovic, so he now has the 3 along with Ahmed.
Well, I want to see if Chris Mullen goes to the zone. He obviously does not want to.
Was he worried that the 3s would hurt them?
I see, you know, a zone, if you play it the right way, you can stop dribble penetration, which leads to stopping 3s. So it's not necessarily going to give up a lot of 3s. It can, certainly. But, you know, you got to weigh what's better. I'd rather take my chance on some 3s and keep my guys in the game.
Yeah. That's certainly a problem with 2 guys having 3 fouls here in the first half.
You know, you can't always do what you want. You got to do the way things dictate.
See if they can get Simon going, and he is fouled on the floor before the shot. And a mock cheer from the fans here in Queens, who are happy that Xavier was finally whistled for a foul. Makura called for that one.
I'll tell you one thing, Andrew. Every year when I got the schedule when I was coaching at Villanova, I would always, it was like you ever play poker, you want to squeeze an inside straight. That's how I felt when I looked at the schedule to see if St. John's was playing them in the Garden or here. I always wanted to be in the Garden and not in here.
A lot more intimate in here.
Yes.
It's very loud when the Johnnies are rocking here at Carnesecca. Garden is occupied tonight as the Nets play the Knicks, which is disappointing for Karam Kanner as Clark misses because Kanner's brother Inez is on the Knicks, so otherwise he would have been able to come see his brother play.
Playing pretty good, too.
Simon, free throw line jumper, and he just cannot get going. Simon now 0 for 3 and still scoreless. Blewett step back, and that won't go. Offensive rebound, O'Mara. His putback is good.
O'Mara, Tyreek Jones, Cantor. They've got 3 guys that play that center spot, and you can put any 3 of those guys, any one of those guys in and get it done.
O'Mara is one of those guys you feel like he's been here for 10 years. Senior grad student now, working on his master's degree.
And the hard thing for those 3 guys is they really can't play together. Well, Cantor, you can play with one of those 2 because he can step out a little bit, but they don't play together much.
3 on the shot clock, and a foul called on Marshall. Chris Mack not happy about that, although his team does lead by 5.
Well, get on the glass, and that's one of the things that Xavier does best. O'Mara with the finish there, and Xavier leading by 5.
We're back with a closer look at Kerem Kanner, 6'10", 240 pounds, originally from Turkey, transferred from Wisconsin, Green Bay, had 22 and 13 against St. John's a couple of weeks ago. And as we mentioned, he's the younger brother of Knicks center Inez Kanner. And for more on their relationship, we send it over to Tina Servasio.
And when you talk about Enes Kanter here in New York, he has become an absolute cult hero to Knicks fans. Why? Because he stood up to LeBron James. Got Devin Booker ejected last week, and he doesn't go any easier on his little brother.
Oh, I destroyed him every time we play one-on-one, you know, because like I wanted to go against him, so he never say, "Oh, I beat my big brother." So every time we play one-on-one, I was straightly going to post up, playing one-on-one, back to basket, and scoring him every time.
So before the game, I went over to Kerem and asked him about what his brother had to say, and he laughed and he said, quote, "That's not even close to being true." So I think we need the one-on-one here on CBS Sports Network. See what really happened.
That'd be an interesting game.
Oh, yeah, we could call it. Do the game. We do want to thank Dan Sabrine of the Knicks PR department for helping get us that clip from Kerem's older brother.
Well, I'll tell you, Inez has been relentless on the glass for the New York Knicks. What an offensive rebounder.
Final 3 minutes of the first half here in Queens. 5 on the shot clock. Pons into the corner. Simon fakes the 3, has to put it up, not aware of the shot clock. And a violation against St. John's, their 5th turnover.
See, that's the part of Justin Simon's game that's got to get better. He's only taken 21 threes. You can't be a perimeter player nowadays and take 21 threes in 20 games. You can't do it. You got to keep the defense honest. And now, St. John's, zone.
Coach Mullen heard you.
2-3 zone. Got to get the ball to the foul line area, but you got to find these shooters. This team that Xavier has in, not their best shooting team.
Blewett's 3 off the mark, and here comes Shamori Pons, who leads all scorers with 14 points in the first half. Clark, left-handed running hook, and he gets the roll.
And Chris Mack, J.P. Mercure ready to come in, probably for Scruggs is my guess, because he wants to get another shooter in the game. Like I said, only Gates is their best shooter that's in the game right now. And obviously Blewett.
Here's Scruggs, and he hits. 6 points for Paul Scruggs, the freshman out of Indianapolis. Final 90 seconds of the first. Pons spinning, but he can't hit, and Gates has it. And here comes Scruggs again. Marshall slipped as he drove. St. John's fans wanted to travel. Marshall then turns it over to Clark. Bounces it to Pons. 1-on-2. Pons all the way, and he's fouled. Don't forget, 109 to halftime. Coming up on AT&T at the half. Adam Zucker, Brendan Haywood, Gary Parrish, John Rothstein. They'll have first half analysis, scores and highlights from around the country. It's all coming your way on AT&T at the half. Foul was on Scruggs. That's his 2nd. We do have a special guest in attendance tonight. To the right of the man right there, There's Bill Murray in the blue hat on the right-hand side. Of course, his son, Luke, is the assistant coach at Xavier, so Bill's attended a few games. He was at their big win over Seton Hall, and he's at Carneseca here tonight. And anytime he wants to come and put the headset on and take over the game, I'd be all ears.
Absolutely.
Final minute of the first half.
Caddyshack.
O'Mara with 5 on the shot clock, finds a cutting Gooden. How about the feed from the big man?
It was, you know what, it was a great cut too. I know the big man made the pass, but you had to dive that cut like Gooden did there, and O'Mara found him.
"11-second difference between the game clock and the shot clock for St. John's. Simon still scoreless. Makura dives. What else is new? Out of bounds. And it will be Xavier basketball.
Well, you take a look at O'Mara here. He's going to get doubled right there. And the dive comes by Gooden. And they lose him. Shamari Pons turns his back on him, doesn't see the cut, and that's why he scored.
Shot clock turned off. 15 seconds remain. And Xavier has a 5-point lead. They have 9 assists on their 13 made field goals. No surprise, they are 10th in the country, averaging just under 18 assists per game. It's Blewett, hands off O'Mara, 5 seconds to go. Now Gooden with 2 seconds has to put up a shot. He passes instead, and Chris Mack is furious on the Xavier bench. How do you not get off a shot right there?
Hey, you're 7 feet from the basket. It's not like you're out on the perimeter stuck. You're right by the, by the rim. You got to throw that one up.
Disappointing end to a first half that sees Xavier go into the locker room with a 5-point lead. Xavier is 14-1 this season when leading at halftime. And Tina is with Chris Mack.
Coach Mack, after that first timeout, we saw a significant difference in the defense. What did you tell the team in that timeout?
Well, we just had to tighten up our ball screen communication. There are a couple of open threes that they got simply because we weren't loud enough to communicate our switch. Got to do a better job. I thought we did in the last 15 minutes or so.
What specifically had your team done well to keep Justin Simon scoreless in the first half?
We've gotten back in transition. We got to continue to keep the ball on offense and not turn it over. As I told you before the game, when you get down below the foul line, we've got to be tighter with the ball, tougher with the ball. If we do that, maybe the margin's a little different. But they're a good team. They got an athletic team. I know they're 0-10, but we'll see what happens here in the second half.
Coach, thank you. Andrew, back to you.
37-32 in favor of Xavier. We'll send you to the guys in New York for AT&T at the half right after these messages. You're watching college basketball on CBS Sports Network, presented by Stouffer's Big Kitchen Bowls. Just a stone's throw from Manhattan. We're here in Queens. Started the second half, and 6th-ranked Xavier leads St. John's 37-32. Back courtside with Steve Lapis. I'm Andrew Catalan. We'll hear from Tina Servasio coming up. It was a great start to that game for St. John's, but Xavier then clamped down on defense and started hitting some outside shots.
And, but let's say this, St. John's, considering where they are in the league, they're playing really hard. They're trying their best, but you have 2 starters, Tariq Owens and Justin Simon, 29 minutes between them, not a point. You cannot beat a team this good, ranked 6th in the country, unless all your guys contribute a little bit more.
Here's a look at the first half stats, brought to you by Stouffer's Fit Kitchen Bowls, and you see the 6 threes from Xavier, so now they've got 20 against St. John's this season.
Yeah, I mean, they really lighten St. John's up from the three-point line. St. John's does not defend that line well. Actually, Xavier shot 48% field goal percentage in the first half, which is really too high. They're a good offensive team. St. John's has to buckle down defensively, no doubt about it. Shamari Pons is doing everything he can. He was 6 for 20 in the first game. Right now in this game, he's doing his thing. 16 points, 5 of 9 from the field. He's made 3 threes. He's doing everything, but he's got to have some help. He cannot do it by himself or with Marvin Clark.
For more on St. John's, we send it over to Tina Servasio.
Andrew, coming into this game, Chris Mullin was concerned about his team's transition game, and he said to me at halftime just now, we are not playing well, we're not doing good in transition. His biggest concern said we just have to execute on the offensive end. The guys are getting good looks, they're just not making those shots, but don't expect any big adjustments on defense.
All right, Tina, thank you very much. And again, the bench points, they always stand out with St. John's. Xavier has 10, St. John's none off the bench. Oh, Macura! Oh, what a move! Whoa. J.P. Macura, one for the highlight reel. And Xavier has its largest lead of the night. You got a name for that move?
No, I like a 360 backwards. I mean, he spun completely around in the air and threw it up over his shoulder. Completely backwards to the basket, I think.
We'll go with it. Clark dribbled it off his knee and turns it over. Najee Marshall pushes up ahead for the Musketeers, looking for their 20th win, which would be the 12th time in the last 13 years they have 20. Blewett's three-point attempt was short. That's the thing about Xavier. Not one player had more than 7 points in the first half, and they still scored 37 as Pons scores.
They have the balance. They've got 9 good players that they can play at any time. As a matter of fact, the guy who's kind of been out of the mix is Tyreek Jones, only played 2 minutes in the first half.
And a foul is called on Marvin Clark. How about that shot by Macura?
Well, look at this. A bad closeout, and he just completely turns around in the air. That's a heck of a shot. And Shamari Pons, this kid can really drive it. If he can shoot the ball from 3 consistently, it's going to set him up for a whole bunch of drives.
Blewett.
Struggling tonight.
He's 2 for 10 shooting. Ahmed playing with the 3 fouls, cannot hit from deep, and Blewett the rebound. There's Marshall. That's way off the mark, and a choppy start to this second half. Pons behind the back, past Cantor. Pons still going. Pons to the hoop for 2. He's now 5 away from 1,000 for his career.
And I think the fact that he's lefty, especially, I think around the basket being lefty helps you. It doesn't mean anything out in the perimeter when you shoot jumpers, but around the basket being lefty, I think most people are going for the right hand, and he's lefty, and I think it really helps in finishing.
Macura baseline again, has some room, gets the ball back, and he's fouled. He was searching out contact down low.
Yeah, that's what Chris Mullin is saying. Look, Chris Mullin is saying he's moving his body. And this is just a great move here. And again, there's that left hand. But I think J.P. Macura, nice finish.
Foul was on Owens. That's his 3rd.
A defensive player is entitled to his space of going up and down in the same spot. To me, from this vantage point, it looked like Macura goes looking for the... Now that time, no, I don't think there was any call there. Here's where it comes. That is Macura's foul, or a no call. That's a bad call.
Here it is one more time.
Watch this.
He's not even looking at the basket.
No, Owens, I mean,
he headbutted him.
He went to Owens' space.
Tough one for St. John's. 3 on Owens. Macura has 9 points tonight. It's a 5-point lead for the Musketeers.
And this is what St. John's does. They just hang around every game. They just had not been able to finish one off.
Clark guarded by Macura. Gets around him. Hands off Ali Begovic, who lays it in. Fans starting to get back into this one here at Carnesecca. Looking for St. John's to pull the upset. Jones's pass deflected, comes out to Blewett. Blewett, high arcing shot. No! But the follow by Marshall.
Oh, fell asleep. They're lucky. It was a layup. Ahmed was under the basket.
Now Ahmed from beyond the arc, and he hits. The St. John's team will fight to the bitter end. 2-point game. Here come the fans. Blewett for three. Not his night as Ahmed rips down the rebound. St. John's can tie it or take the lead with a three. Simon inside, and we are tied.
That time, fall asleep in transition, Xavier. Lost Justin Simon.
Marshall lost it. Here comes Clark. 3-on-1. Pons up ahead. Pons. St. John's has the lead. Their first since it was 17-14. A 7-0 run. Timeout, Xavier.
Well, St. John's coming alive here. Falling asleep in transition. You better get back with these guys because they're athletic and they get it up the floor. And the Storm up 2.
It's been a roller coaster season for St. John's. They were 10-2 during the non-conference season. They started 5-0, but then Marcus Levette shut down for the year because of a knee injury and still looking for their first Big East win of the season. They've never gone winless in Big East play, and they're hoping that ends tonight as they're riding a 7-0 run. They're 6 for 7 shooting this half.
Well, I mean, they played hard all year. One of the things that Chris Mullin definitely told us before the game was, what am I going to say to these guys? Because every day they've given me a great effort. Maybe the Butler game, the last game, wasn't a good one. But that's the only one like that this year. They've had so many close games that they could have won, giving a great effort, and that's what you got to do. You just hope in the end you're going to get one.
Let's check in with Tina Servasio.
In the St. John's huddle, Chris Mullin said to the guys, great defense. I like the way you're pushing the pace. Keep it up. But he got on them again. He said, but we got to get back in transition.
All right, Tina, good stuff. Thank you very much. Blewett connects, and now Trayvon Blewett is third in Xavier school history on the all-time scoring list. He just passed Romain Sato for third. What a career for Trayvon Blewett. Lob. Macura, good defense. Simon got it, and then he's fouled by Macura. But make some room in the record books at Xavier. Trayvon Blewett, only 2 with more points. Byron Larkin, David West, and now it's Blewett at number 3. Congratulations to Trayvon Blewett, now third in Xavier school history with 2,007 points. The only 2 men in front of him, David West, who had a great career, obviously in the NBA, and Byron Larkin, 2,696 points, the all-time leading scorer in Xavier history. And Byron in the building tonight. He's a radio analyst for the Xavier radio broadcast, all-time leading scorer. You had a chance to chat with him before the game.
What a great guy. I've known him for a long, long time. Was a tremendous player. His brother Barry wasn't a bad player either.
Not too bad.
Not too bad. And their nephew Shane with the Boston Celtics, he's not bad either.
Very athletic family. And another legend in the building, a man you know well, Lou Carnesecca, former St. John's coach, all-time winningest coach in school history.
Sitting there with Ron Rutledge, his longtime assistant. I'll tell you a funny story. We're on a Nike trip with all the coaches and with Louis, and he says to me, Stevie, here's what you got to do. When you get the money, put it in the mattress. Put the money in the mattress.
Great to have Louis in the house tonight.
He came to Rolly's Coach Massimino's funeral, so I saw him way back in October. It was great to see him. Obviously, tough occasion, but great to see him there. Great guy, great coach.
His team has a 1-point lead right now on 6th-ranked Xavier. Inside 15 minutes to go. And a whistle away from the ball as the players got tangled up. This is going to be on Ali Begovic, and that's his 4th. Chris Mullins looking down his bench. Now, one guy we have not seen tonight is Kasum Yakwe. He did not play in the last game because of an ankle injury. We watched St. John's practice earlier today, and he was out there shooting around, looked pretty good, but still not 100%. He didn't look good in warm-up, so at this point we don't know if he's available or not, as Pons lays in 2 more.
I tell you what, he flies.
He's got 999 career points, 1 away from 1,000. Shamori Pons, 24 tonight. Makura counted in the foul for J.P. Makura. Well, Pons is second in the Big East in steals per game, turning it into 2 points, but Makura the answer.
Well, dribble doesn't keep him in front, and that's what you got to do. You got to keep him in front. Marvin Clark jumps for a block to block a shot, and he gets the and one. Got to contain the ball. The most important thing in basketball defensively is stop the ball. Help's important, but if you got to help on every play, you're not a good defensive team. You got to stop the ball.
Makura misses the free throw. That would have tied it, but Gates gets the rebound. Blewett feeds Cannon inside, no good. Out of bounds to St. John's.
That was a really good pass, and I'll tell you what Cannon does so well. He caught that ball, kept it up, and was able to get it up quickly. Just a little bit rushed there, and that's why he missed.
Canner only 5 points tonight. He had 22 in the first meeting between these two schools. Clark wide open, 3 is good. Third 3 for Marvin Clark. Blewett driving on the other end, and he is fouled. Going up for the shot. 2 shots coming for Trayvon Blewett after the foul on Justin Simon, his first.
Well, you two take a look at this pick and roll right here. 2 guys go to guard the ball again. Now, this is the second time they've done this. You're going to see run it from there. And you're going to see here 2 guys. Stop right there. 2 guys right there on the ball.
Blewett misses the free throw. Blewett on the Wooden Award midseason top 25 list. He's one of 5 players in the Big East to make that list. In fact, the Big East and the ACC, the only conferences with 5 players on the Wooden Award midseason top 25. Foul trouble for St. John's. Ali Begovic 4, Owens and Ahmed with 3 apiece. Here's Pons. He travels. Turnover number 8 for St. John's. A 3-point lead for the Red Storm, 13:30 to go.
No center in the game. Now, Kaiser Gates is their biggest guy. They got 5 perimeter guys in the game. That's not a bad way to go against St. John's.
And this one's going against Xavier. Foul on Gates.
Yeah, he didn't give him any space. That's an illegal screen. That's an easy one. But this is like the new modern game. Got 5 perimeter players playing against 5 perimeter players. No centers in the game. There's barely a power forward in the game, actually. This is a game of 1, 2s, and 3s playing against each other.
Here's Clark again, not this time. And the rebound to Paul Scruggs. Gooden trying to split the D. Back out Blewett for 3.
Good defense.
Not his day.
Great recovery to him. That was a hard contest.
He's 3 for 14. Pons is blocked. Good defense by Scruggs. And Gooden scoops it up in the corner. Running the floor to Gates. And a whistle inside. That's going to go on Gates. That's his second foul. Xavier is 6 for 21 from beyond the arc, shooting just 28% from deep.
And you know what? At one point in this game, they were 6 for 12. So, I mean, they've really, 6 for 13. They've really gone cold recently. That was a big story in the first half.
This game is eerily similar to the first matchup. St. John's with the lead in the second half, but you question whether they'll have the stamina to get it done down the stretch. What a move by Pons, and Ahmed can't finish it off after the nifty play.
Got to make that. You cannot get a better three-point shot than that one, and he's one of their better three-point shooters.
Gooden inside gets the roll, and Chris Mack calls timeout. With 12:04 to go in the second half, we've got a one-point game. Big East basketball on CBS Sports Network. 51-50, St. John's on top of Xavier, and the Musketeers back in action Saturday night, 6 Eastern, right here on CBS Sports Network as they take on Patrick Ewing and the Georgetown Hoyas. 4 of the 10 current Big East head coaches are at their alma maters. You know, Chris Mack, Xavier Gard, now the head coach. Of course, Chris Mullen here at St. John's as well. Laval Jordan with Butler, now the head coach of the Bulldogs. And yes, Patrick Ewing in his first season with Georgetown. Chris Mack was a captain for Xavier. Chris Mullen, St. John's all-time leading scorer. And we check in with Tina Servacio.
Yeah, in the Xavier huddle, Chris Mack said that we've got to communicate on our switches, stay tight defensively, don't give up any second shots. He was talking about Pons and Simon scoring inside. He said you got to stay tight on those guys.
It was a bit of a strange timeout for Chris Mack. He only has 1 left, and we're 4 seconds away from a media timeout.
And after they scored, I mean, to leave yourself with only 1 on the road, I'm a little surprised. But you know what? He is right about what they need to do. They've miscommunicated some switches, and they paid for it.
Clark misses the 2. And up ahead come the Musketeers. O'Mara into the game for Xavier. Blewett comes off a screen, launches from deep, and he is now 1 of 9 from beyond the arc tonight. Not what you'd expect from a 43% three-point shooter. Pons is able to get it to go.
Let me tell you something. Pons came down, he saw O'Mara on him. He said, I'm taking this guy, and he took him.
And with that bucket, Shamori Pons now has 1,001 points in his career. Just the 10th in St. John's history to do it in their second season. As the offensive foul is on O'Mara, but a historic bucket for Shamori Pons.
How much chance did O'Mara have to stay in front of him?
1,000 points in less than 2 seasons. Remarkable feat for the sophomore out of Brooklyn.
Well, you look at this school, only 10 guys have done that in the history of this school. There's a whole lot of legacy here.
He's got 26 tonight. Trimble turns it over.
Good pressure that time on Trimble.
That is so rare for Trimble. Coming into the game, he's played 355 minutes and committed just 2 turnovers.
That's unbelievable.
A very rare turnover for the freshman out of Kansas City. Gooden. Nowhere to go. St. John's playing tough defense tonight.
Second half, they really have defended well.
Shot clock inside 10. Blewett rolls it into O'Mara, guarded by Owens. He's got 3 fouls. O'Mara finds Makura, 2 on the shot clock. Extra pass and a turnover. And Pons able to keep it in bounds. Pons head down behind the back before he could pass. A foul is called on Xavier on Makura. That's his 3rd. Each side with 5 team fouls with 10:14 to go. St. John's has not won in 2018. Their last win before Christmas, December 20th against St. Joe's. And Makura comes out. Najee Marshall returns.
I'm a little surprised we haven't seen any zone at all from Xavier. They normally mix things up. They'll even play a 1-3-1 zone some. Tonight they haven't mixed it up at all.
Owens coughs it up. Bad turnover there by the Red Storm. Ahmed trying to guard O'Mara. Scruggs had it poked away by Owens. But right there is Marshall behind the back, and he lost it. 6 on the shot clock. Marshall's got to put one up. He does, and misses. And then on the loose ball has Ahmed's name on it. Wild scramble. Pons behind the back to Ahmed. Driving in, left hand, no. Ahmed has missed some good looks tonight as Chris Mullins looking for a foul. And Gooden just chucks one up, and he is fouled.
That's a good call. Ahmed, Owens, and Simon have to do something. You can't beat a team this good with 2 guys.
Foul on Simon. Chris Mullen talking to Wally Rutecki, saying, what's going on here?
Yeah, I thought that was a good call.
Sends Gooden to the line, 84% on the season. As a team, Xavier is 22nd in the country, shooting 76% from the line. And if they stay at that number, they're going to break the school record, which is 74%, set during the 07-08 season.
I think it's a good move by Chris Mack bringing Canner in the game. I think they need some low post scoring. They really have not been getting much in the low post, and he is a scorer.
Xavier getting outscored in the paint tonight, 26-20. And Chris Mullen wants to talk things over with 9:17 to go. St. John's has a 2-point advantage. St. John's has a 2-point lead over Xavier as we take a look at some headlines from around the Big East Conference. Marcus Foster, the player of the week. At least 20 in 4 consecutive games. Angel Delgado, now the Big East's all-time leading rebounder in conference games. And that one on the bottom hasn't changed in a while. Villanova still number 1.
Hey, you know what's amazing about the one on the bottom? Villanova had never been number 1 ever in the nation prior to this run. We got as high as number 2. Coach Massimino had a team as high as number 2, and Jack Kraft had a team as high as number 2, but never number 1 until there. So with the history at Villanova, hadn't happened till Jay did it, 2-3 years ago for the first time.
But the injury to Phil Booth is a big loss for Villanova.
Huge loss. But one thing about Jay, he's gotten used to playing with 6 guys, and he's got these freshmen. Gillespie starting to step up. Roundtree starting to step up. Terrence Samuels, when he comes back, he's going to make a difference. So he knows how to juggle it, but they do need Phil Booth. He's a terrific player.
St. John's with the ball up by 2. Looking for their first Big East win of the season. Owens gets rid of it to Ahmed. He has struggled here in the second half.
Ahmed's had some big opportunities that he has not come through on.
Pons 3, no good, and Makura gets the rebound. Makura back in the game with 3 fouls. Cross-court pass to Gates. He wants to drive it. Look at this ball movement by Xavier. Makura 3. Not falling tonight for the Musketeers.
Well, you see why, though. They average so many assists. They really share the ball well.
0 for 8 this half from beyond the arc for the Musketeers. And an offensive foul is called on Marvin Clark. His 3rd.
Well, I think J.P. Makura did a great job there of getting his foot on the baseline right here. Oh, I don't know about that. I take it back. I stand corrected. Not sure about that one.
Chris Mullins had a few of those stares towards the officials tonight. We just witnessed another one. Clark's got 15.
This is Xavier's best offensive team for sure. Travel.
Oh, wow. No call. Then Makura turned it over off his foot.
I thought that was a
turnover number 13 for the Musketeers, the 6th-ranked team in the country in a battle here in Queens. Back at Carnesecca Arena, St. John's has a 2-point lead on number 6 Xavier. With Steve Lapis, I'm Andrew Catalan. What a difference for Shamorie Ponds. 0 for 12 in Saturday's loss to Butler. He's got 26 points tonight.
And 6 for 20 against these guys in the first game at the Cintas Center a couple of weeks ago. So he has done everything that he can. 26 points tonight. He's made threes. He's taken the ball to the basket. This game is his game, and that's how he feels like it. He takes it to the basket so well. He finishes with both hands, uses the glass, done everything. And take a look at the...
Hey, let's revisit our principal financial game plan.
Well, speed up the game. Xavier has not done a great job with that. Contained Ponds, they have done a terrible job with that. St. John's, why are they in the game? They're rebounding the ball, only -1 on the glass. That is tremendous, and they're defending the paint tonight much better than they did the first time around. They're doing what they need to do. That's why they're up to. Xavier is not.
And let's send it over to Tina Servasio.
Andrew, I noticed at St. John's practice yesterday, Chris Mullen and his staff were emphasizing attacking the rim, going strong in the paint, to be powerful and precise with their layups. They were trying to get players to use their body more to attack the defender so they could finish at the rim after absorbing contact, and we're seeing that as they're scoring inside tonight.
No doubt, Tina. Points in the paint, 26 for St. John's, 20 for the Musketeers.
Hey, Shamorie Ponds almost beat Villanova by himself. I guess he's going to try and beat Xavier by himself.
Here he comes. He's got 28.
Because really, except for Marvin Clark, nobody's really given him anything on offense. Owens, Ahmed, Simon, nothing. If I were Chris Mack, I would double team him and make him give up the ball. Let somebody else start taking shots.
Gates, corner three. It's good, finally, for Xavier. Their first 3 of the second half.
And he is one of their top 2 3-point shooters, him and Blewett, so they got to get him going.
6th in the Big East, shooting 44% from deep. Kaiser Gates. And a foul called on the Musketeers on Cantor.
He just slips the screen. Shamorie Ponds falls asleep. He slips to the corner. You see Ponds here hang around. That was a good move by Gates, moving without the ball.
Both teams in the bonus. With 7 minutes to go. Ponds, there's the double, and he throws it away. You called for it.
They have to be more aggressive getting the ball out of his hands. Let somebody else do something. Right now, he's got it rolling.
It's been a good one here in Queens tonight. 4 ties, 3 lead changes. Xavier led by as many as 7, but right now it's St. John's by 1. And this is the point in the first meeting when St. John's had the lead where Xavier turned it on and ran away with it. Let's see what happens in round 2 as Cantor is fouled. That's on Owens, and that's number 4.
Yeah, I like that move. I like that play by Chris Mack. Set play to get the ball into Cantor. He's terrific in the low post. Owens now with 4 fouls has to be really careful.
1 and 1 for Karim Cantor.
I go back with him the next possession. Go back to him. Because you know Owens is being told by Chris Mullen, you can't foul because they don't have anybody really to put in the game for him. And he's the only big guy. Cantor will be able to score.
Well, he's going to send Ali Begovic back into the game for Owens.
How about McCure? You see McCure did? Owens was standing next to him, and he knew he was coming. He tapping him on the back like, hey, you going out?
Yeah. Owens had his head down, so he didn't know that Ali Begovic was coming in. So McCure was directing traffic out there.
Yeah, I can see wwhy he gets on some nerves.
The 2 free throws by Cantor give the Musketeers the lead by 1.
Unless they're friends, which I don't know about.
Right. Ali Begovic dives to the ground, and a foul is called on Blewett. Wow. That'll send St. John's to the line for a 1 and 1.
I guess he grabbed his arm. Grabbed his arm. They're calling a lot more fouls on those dives on the floor now than they've ever before, which is one of the things they talked about in the preseason, the officials.
So Ali Begovic at the line for just the 4th time this season. He's 2 out of 3. And this is a 1 and 1. Ali Begovic is the only 4-year player on the St. John's roster. The only holdover from Steve Lavin's St. John's teams. He goes 1 out of 2 and ties the game at 56. 6:20 to go. Gooden, corner 3, yes!
Boy, this kid is really getting better and better all the time. And that looked pretty good. Doesn't look like a guy who didn't make a lot of threes this year.
8-1 run for the Musketeers. This is playing out very similar to the last meeting just 13 days ago. Clark misses the 3. Ali Begovic called for over the back. And that's his 5th. Ali Begovic is fouled out of the game.
Well, you're going to see here on this pick and roll, St. John's really hasn't guarded these well. 2 guys guarding 1. Good pass to the weak side of the floor. That's where the guy is open, on the weak side of the floor in those situations. And sure enough, Gooden knocks it out.
He's not the best Gooden to ever play in Queens.
No.
A guy by the name of Doc has that title, but Quentin Gooden is playing well tonight again. He's got 13 points and a couple of threes.
Yeah, Doc used to throw him 100 miles an hour. He didn't put him in a basket, but he used to throw him about 100 miles an hour.
So Ali Begovic is fouled out, and Chris Mullen is going to go back to Tariq Owens with the 4 fouls. He doesn't really have another choice.
Got no choice, and you know what? Might be a good time to try a little zone. They haven't played the pick and rolls well. Xavier's starting to get in a groove. Zone sometimes can take you out of your rhythm. It looks like Xavier's in a good rhythm right now.
Canner with another 1-and-1.
By the way, you took the words right out of my mouth. This is exactly what happened last time. They had a 2-point lead with like 7, 8 to go, and the same thing happened at Xavier.
15-0 run back in Cincinnati. And Canner goes 2 out of 2.
And Canner's been a real boost since he's been back in the game.
Let's see how St. John's responds with the foul trouble as well. Owens, the big problem with 4 right now. Pons with a wild shot. And the rebound to Gates. Crowd has gone quiet here at Carnesecca. Nikura's pass deflected, he turns it over.
They got to go, because this is the best chance they have to score.
Ahmed ahead of the pack, and the flush.
This team is one of the top steal teams in the country, so when it comes to defense and making steals, they do that.
14 turnovers for the Musketeers. They had 15 in the first meeting against St. John's. 5 minutes to go. Blewett's had an off night, but he gets the roll right there.
He runs into Karen Cantor, and he still gets it in.
And now he's got 10 points, so his streak of double-figure games continues. It's now 34 in a row for Trayvon Blewett. Pons counted and one.
I mean, you know it's coming. You gotta double him. He fakes using the pick and roll, and there's no help. See, here's what I don't understand. Nobody else on the court except maybe Marvin Clark can make a shot. So why don't you give aggressive help on that and not let him drive, make him kick the ball to a shooter?
Here's the good news for St. John's. Shamori Pons has 31 points. 3 times this year he scored 30 or more. St. John's 0-3 in those games.
I know one of them was Villanova.
Yep, 37 against Villanova. Crowd is back into it. Canner muscles his way but misses the shot. Here comes Simon in transition. Simon is fouled. Blewett fouls him with 4:21 to go. Second foul on Blewett. And now Simon at the line.
St. John's is absolutely much better off when they push the ball because they have no one in the low post to throw the ball to. You know Shamari Pons is the guy. Go up and transition.
Simon has just 3 points tonight. This after scoring a career-high 28 against Xavier back at the Cintas Center.
He looks like a different guy tonight. I mean, he was spectacular that night.
Transfer from Arizona. Misses both free throws. Big misses for Simon and St. John's. They're still down by 2. Chance of defense from the crowd here at Carnesecca. And nearly another turnover, but it'll stay with Xavier. Shot clock at 12. Five on the shot clock. Here's Cantor driving off glass for 2.
He's been a big factor when he came back in the game.
He's got 11 points. Xavier's lead is 4.
So skilled.
Clark, and he draws the foul. 3:36 to go. Will St. John's taste victory for the first time this season in the Big East? You're watching college basketball presented by Stouffer's Fit Kitchen Bowls. Good finish coming from Carnesecca. Xavier leads St. John's 65-61. We've got more college hoops action tomorrow night at 7 Eastern. Back-to-back American showdowns. Number 8 Cincinnati welcomes Houston, and that's followed by UConn and UCF, and then later Nevada takes on Fresno State, only on CBS Sports Network. You take a look at the standings in the American, you see the matchup tomorrow, Cincinnati and Houston.
Best Cincinnati team that he's had, because this team can score. Evans, Gary Clark, they got experience. They've got guys that can score inside. They got three-point shooters. This may be the Cincinnati team that gets to that Final Four since Bob Huggins.
All right, Coach. St. John's, they've struggled late in games. How do they get over the hump on this one?
Well, first of all, Marvin Clark, 41 for 45 on the season from the free throw line. He's got to make these. You're Xavier, you come down, you got to get the ball to Cantor. That last shot that Cantor made, Tariq Owens didn't even try to stop him. He's got 4 fouls, but at this point in the game, you got to stop guys from scoring. I'd go to Cantor. St. John's, push the ball up the floor. And you got to make, there's nothing you can say if you don't make free throws.
And Marvin Clark, 91% at the line this season. A look at some of the close losses for St. John's. Very few blowouts in their 10 Big East losses. You see the deficit right there. 7 of their 10 Big East losses by 7 points or fewer.
I like the pressure. Try to speed this thing up a little bit, because they're at their best when they're running. Half court's tough for St. John's because they got one guy scoring.
Remember, Owens has 4 fouls for St. John's. He's matched up with Cantor.
That's where they should go. They tried to go to Cantor. McCure with a bad pass.
Defense by Simon. St. John's takes it away.
He didn't fake his pass. He telegraphed it, and they just took it out of the air. You got to run a pick and roll. And I would definitely not let this kid get the ball back. They keep letting him get touches all he wants.
Pons over to Clark. 10 on the shot clock. Clark. And now Pons for 3. No good. Ahmed, the rebound and the putback. One-point game. 2:40 to go.
Well, Xavier tried to go to Cantor last time, and McCure threw the ball away.
Nice cut. Cates off the feed from Gooden. Kaiser Gates puts Xavier back up by 3. Pons to Clark for the tie. Yes! Fans on their feet. 67-67, 2 minutes to go. Great defense by Owens to create the turnover.
That was great defense on that pick and roll.
And Pons calls timeout. 1:45 to go. St. John's looking to pull the upset over Xavier. St. John's, their last win over a top 10 team, February of 2011 against Pittsburgh. They've lost their last 21 against the top 10.
I was going to say they play in a league where there's a lot of those kinds of games.
So St. John's following the timeout by Chris Mullen. Justin Simon will inbound.
You got to pick and roll with Tariq Owens. Just give the ball to Shamari Pons. Just give it to him. You pick and roll and get out of the way. Really, that's their best offense. But if I'm Xavier, I'm doubling this kid. I'm not letting him go by himself.
Shamari Pons has 31 points tonight for the Red Storm.
I don't know why aren't they using the entire clock to play? I don't like this.
Now Pons will go inside 10 on the shot clock. Clark with 4 to shoot. Ahmed's going to have to force one up. Good defense by Blewett and a shot clock violation.
That was horrendous offense. First of all, the biggest problem they had there was they got the ball with 20-some seconds to go. Why they stood out there for 10 seconds just pounding it on the floor? Use the whole clock to play offense. This was just not good.
Chris Mullen wanted a foul there at the end on Blewett. And now the officials are at the monitor.
Yeah, that was just a bad possession. I don't understand why people in this situation score tied, need a basket. Score tied, you need a basket. You got 25 seconds to get a shot. Why not use the whole 25 seconds? Why only give yourself 10 seconds to get a good shot? I don't understand it.
The officials were just looking at the clock. There's 1:21 to go. Xavier, number 6 in the country, has the ball in a tie game against St. John's, 0-10 in Big East play. Have not won a game since before Christmas. Here's Gooden on the drive, out to Makura, wide open 3, no good, and a whistle inside. And that's going to go on St. John's.
Yep.
It's a push on Bashir Ahmed, and that's his 4th.
All I know is I saw Blewett end up at the stanchion.
You could see his arms go flying underneath. Another look right here.
I mean, yeah, you can't see real. He ends up a long way from the court, I can tell you that.
So 2 shots for Blewett, and he gives Xavier the lead with 1:04 to go. Has been an off night for Xavier's star. He is 4 of 16 shooting and 1 of 9 from deep. But his 2 free throws give Xavier the lead.
They should push this ball up. They should not walk this up. They should push it up and just go pick and roll. You know that's what you're going to do anyway.
1 minute to go. Fans on their feet here in Queens. Clark in the corner. Pons is calling for it. He's got it.
Clear it out. Go 1-4 low or something.
Ahmed driving, and a foul on the floor before the shot against Xavier. This will be on Trayvon Blewett. His 3rd.
Give Xavier credit these last 2 possessions. No Shamari Pons getting a shot.
It'll be 2 shots for Bashir Ahmed, who's just a 58% free throw shooter. He's got 11 points tonight, in double figures for the 15th time this year. And St. John's continues to struggle at the line. They're now 9 for 15.
And regardless of what happens with this shot, they don't have to foul. They got to play solid defense. They're going to get the ball back with almost 12 seconds to go. Good, solid defense. You don't have to foul. And you got to get a rebound.
1-point game. 11-second difference between the game clock and the shot clock.
If I'm Xavier, I'm running this down as far as I can. But I'm getting the ball into Cantor at the end.
Pons is very dangerous, 2nd in the Big East in steals per game. Now Cantor driving. Cantor blocked by Owens.
Oh,
they're calling it
good.
a goaltend. Wow, they can't believe it here in Queens.
Wow.
Goaltending call on Tariq Owens. Another look. What do you think, Coach?
Oh, I don't think so. Does it hit the backboard first? Does it hit the backboard? It did.
Wow.
Hit the backboard first. That's goaltending. And it was hard to say. That was a tough call.
And now a timeout. Xavier calls the timeout. Here's a look at Owens, his reaction after the goaltend call. He is one of the premier shot blockers in the country.
Split second late. I'm talking about split second.
Now look at the Big East standings. St. John's, they've lost 10 in a row, all 10 conference games. Xavier a half game behind Villanova for first place, but this is the second time these two schools have met and played a close game. St. John's with the ball down by 3.
Well, here's what Chris Mack is telling his guys: don't foul. Okay, we're down now. If it gets under 5. If you could do it on the fly, do it on the fly and foul. But right now, you don't want to foul. So if I'm Chris Mullen, I'm telling Shamari Pons, don't even, you beeline to the basket, score right away, put us down 1, and then we go from there. We got 1 timeout left, we score, we call timeout, we set up our pressure. We decide what we want to do then. But take this ball to the basket. You don't need a 3. Now, if you end up with Marvin Clark, let's say, who's your best 3-point shooter with a wide open 3, you're not going to get one. Take it to the basket.
Let's go over to Tina Servasio.
All right, Chris Mullen and his coaches said go for 2 right away. They want to see players sprint into the pick and roll. Let's see if they can execute.
All right, that's exactly what Coach Lapis said. Thank you very much, Tina. We'll see if Pons can get to the hoop quickly. And you're saying if it gets to be within 5 seconds, then Xavier should foul.
Then Xavier should foul. But that's hard to do, you know what I mean? The kids have to be alert and aware that what the clock is, you know what I mean? So that's not an easy thing to foul on. You got to practice it.
Here's Simon.
What'd they do?
To Owens, draws the double. He traveled.
What? Why does Pons not have the ball in his hands?
It's a great question.
Why does Pons not have the ball? Tariq Owens has not scored in this game.
10.6 to go.
Now you got to foul.
They have to foul
Quick.
right away.
Oh, I
they
can't
still
believe
haven't fouled.
They haven't fouled.
And now Ahmed fouls Blewett hard. But they let almost 4 seconds come off the clock.
Yeah, they needed to foul a half a second come off the clock.
2 games ago, late in the game against Creighton, they had fouls to give St. John's. They lost about 15 seconds before they committed a foul. And here, they waste precious time. Don't forget, coming up next, Inside College Basketball right here on CBS Sports Network. And St. John's has had some tough losses this year. And if they don't find a way to pull this one out, this is going to be another one that sticks with them for a while.
No question, but look at the execution the last minute and a half, Andrew. I mean, the right guy, the man who played a great game, Shamari Pons, 31 points, didn't get a shot in the last minute and a half. Give Xavier credit. We got to give Xavier credit too, obviously, but them not getting the ball to Shamari Pons, especially that last one there, I don't get it.
Ahmed fouled out. It sends Blewett to the line for 2 shots, where he could, for all intents and purposes, put this one away. Now a 2-possession game. Xavier's made 7 consecutive free throws.
Which you said they do.
Make it 8. 5-point game, 6.8 seconds left. Xavier on the doorstep of winning their 20th game of the season. Clark's got to go quick. Puts up a 3. It's no good, and that will do it. Another hard-fought game for St. John's, but in the end, it's Xavier improving to 20-3, and it's the first time in 28 seasons they've won 20 games before the month of February. Blewett with 14 points, to lead the Musketeers, even though he was 4 of 16 shooting. Not an easy game for Chris Mack and number 6 Xavier. But they go to 8-2 and Big East playing now 20-3 overall.
Well, they're one of the great programs, and give Chris Mack credit. He did what he needed to do in the last minute and a half. The ball was out of Shamari Pons' hands. He wanted other people to beat him, and they could not do it.
You see the updated standings. Xavier now 8-2 in the league, and Tina is with the winning coach, Chris Mack.
Coach, so similar to the game played at Xavier. St. John's is up with under 7 minutes to go, but then you go on a run. But what did the team have to do to finish this?
Well, we had to try to keep them in front of us the best we could. The majority of their points, it seemed like, were off our turnovers. And again, give St. John's a lot of credit. They're a tough matchup for us. They have extreme quickness. They must have stolen the ball 5 or 6 times off us and got layups out of it. And again, it's a tough matchup for us. I'm just glad our guys had the fortitude to fight through and win the game.
Yeah, Pons had 31 points, but what did the guys have to do to keep the ball out of his hands the last minute and a half?
Well, that's a trick for us. I mean, if we're getting it out of his hands, that means we're spread out, 40 feet from the basket, and now their quickness opens up driving lanes, and they're quick at every position. So that's not really who we are. We're not trying to keep the ball out of his hands. We're trying to keep him out of the lane. He's a good little player. It's just a tough matchup for us.
Coach, congratulations and thank you.
Thanks. We'll take it.
Xavier wins it 73-68. For our producer, Steve Karasik, director, Jim Cornell, Steve Lapis, Tina Servasio, our entire crew, I'm Andrew Catalan. This has been a presentation of CBS Sports Network, the 24-hour home of CBS Sports. That'll do it from Queens, but we'll send you about a driver, 9-iron away. Adam Zucker and company in the studio. It's Inside College Basketball.